paging Shinji to the stage.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, all right. There you are. You have appeared, and I am, of course, very excited about your talk. But because I tend to give away so many books in the interludes, I find myself very behind on schedule. So I'm just going to hand it over to you. And then when we come back, maybe I will have a nice little song to finish out this whole party. All right. So I'll leave it to you to carry us home.
All right, thank you. I'm excited to be here, and thanks for everyone who's staying until the very last session for me. I really appreciate it, and hopefully I am making your time worthwhile. So, hi, my name is Shinji Kim. I'm the founder CEO of SelectStar. SelectStar is an automated data discovery platform that helps everyone to find and understand their organization data. So today I'm going to talk about differences and overlaps of data discovery and data observability. This is a question that we get from SelectStar time to time from prospective customers. How is SelectStar different from these data observability tools? Which one should I implement first? We at SelectStar, we think both are very important, but I also thought it might be worth pointing out the differences and dig into a little bit more details here. So next. So why are we here? So everyone is looking into data discovery or data observability because today we all have more data, and the data is also being used by not just the engineering team, but throughout all the business and the different people inside the organization. In fact, here are the few things that we are seeing in the market. Next. Too many data sets to keep track of and manage. With the explosion of data that's happening in the organizations, and now starting to have all of those data in cloud data warehouses and cloud data lakes, businesses are starting to run 360 analysis of their customers and can actually build better models because of this. You're getting data from your apps and websites, but also from your Salesforce or marketing tools. Now you have so many different sources where you can track all of your users and customer interactions. And what that means is you get a better analysis. At the same time, on the data management perspective, there are hundreds and thousands or a lot more for larger companies to manage. So this is just becoming more confusing in terms of data management perspective. Next. A lot of the analysis actually is being more decentralized. So it's not just the centralized one data team that you go to get your dashboard. Each business teams have their own analysts, and now they're moving faster of generating their analysis and dashboards. What that also creates, though, is siloed information and different definitions of how different divisions see their KPIs and metrics, even though many of those company metrics can be shared. Next. And what it also alludes to is that a lot of your business stakeholders and everyone else in the company is starting to get access to data directly. So this democratization of data that's happening in the company allows your data to be used everywhere and by many different people. And everyone may have a slightly different understanding of the data. Next. So what that means is that everyone's asking questions about data, not just your data team members. Where did this data come from? Who's using this today? Who created this? And do we actually have this data? It's not just your data engineers and data scientists. And this is the main issue of data consumers that we're trying to solve on the data discovery front. Next. And what it also means, go back one, yeah. What it also means for data managers. It also means that data quality and operational metrics like data freshness, the completeness, and SLA is actually more important than before. As much as there's the explosion of data, there's also the following explosion of analysis and reports that are getting created in everyone's BI tool right now. So if a marketing team is trying to make a decision on where to invest their dollars in, or product team is trying to make a decision on which product features to prioritize, you want to ensure that they are basing their analysis on the correct data. Next. So I would say both data discovery and data observability is pretty much like a part of the data ops cycle. According to Gartner, data ops is defined as an agile and collaborative data management practice focused on improving the operations of data flows between data managers or data producers and data consumers. It's really to make the data creation or data collection, processing, and also the management to be more integrated and iterative through its life cycle. Next. But the practice of data ops is also to reduce organization friction around the consumption of data or use of data across the organization, so that data can be really more democratized and can actually be useful to everyone in the organization. So how is data discovery actually different and compared to data observability? Next. I would like to look into generally the purpose first, like why are we doing this? And hence what are components of data discovery and data observability. The purpose of data discovery is to provide a single source of truth that includes the context and shared knowledge for everyone in the organization. By making the data more discoverable, it helps everyone to find, understand, and also use their organization data. Next. So because of this, usually data discovery platforms, including SelectStar, has these following features. First, metadata catalog and search. So you can search through different data objects and reports across multiple data sources and data stacks and application that utilizes the data. Second, data documentation. Data documentation can look like in a form of data dictionary, like tables and column descriptions, or business glossaries, can be tags, as well as assignment of who are the data owners and stewards. And then there is data usage. A lot of modern data platforms like SelectStar will hint at which data sets are being queried the most in the data warehouse, as well as which ones are being looked up the most. So you have a general sense of usage of data. And then there's data lineage, which helps the understanding of data pipelines and models underneath the tables and dashboards. Data lineage will help you answer questions like, how was this dashboard put together? And if I were to change this column name, will this report break? And most of the time, because of this, data discovery tools really focus on integrations on the analytics side of the stack, like the data warehouse or the BI tools, where the majority of the data consumption is happening. And because data discovery's purpose is to increase the understanding of data knowledge across domains and roles, its main target user group can be stretched pretty widely. First of all, data engineers and data analysts can benefit from the data discovery tools by having single source of truth that they can look up for specific objects rather than relying on tribal knowledge of their team. And secondly, business stakeholders can also utilize data discovery platforms that's coming from for the dashboards that they're relying their decisions based on. Next. And on the other hand, data observability is geared towards providing operational visibility and analysis for data engineering teams. This is to ensure that data is all sound and working correctly. Next. So usually data observability platforms have the following features. First, metadata monitoring and alerting. This is to monitor your data health metrics like data freshness, volume, schema, as well as distribution. If there is an update that has been failed, and you would want to get an alert that the downstream analysis may be stale or unreliable, this is an area where you can run these health checks right away. And then there are data tests that you can run through observability platforms. Within the business domains, there may be some rules and checksums that you would want to apply to ensure that the data is actually correct in the sense of how you calculate your KPIs. So this will allow you to have an additional layer to make sure that your analysis and the result of those analysis is actually trustworthy. And there's data profiling. Some observability tools offer a snapshot of the data tables to give you an idea of if the data values are changing and how they look like today. This can really be helpful when you are trying to track down the anomalies or the real changes that is affecting the changes on your dashboard or dashboard numbers. And then last but not least, there's data lineage. So similar to data discovery, data lineage for purposes of data observability will also help data engineers to visualize their data pipeline models, and that helps the spotting the root cause of any failures and understand the impact of any metadata changes. And because of this, the main users of data observability platforms are focused on data engineers, production engineers, as well as perhaps the IT ops, where their main goal is to ensure that there is a correct and sound data that is trustworthy in the system. Next. So we believe both data discovery and data observability are quite important for data-driven organization. Next. Data observability is primarily implemented to ensure the operational reliability of the data. And this really institutes the monitoring, alerting, and helps the root cause and impact analysis, and also prevents downtime incidents that may happen on your data sets. On the other hand, data discovery is primarily adopted to have data documentation and knowledge sharing in one place. This helps self-service analytics or data democratization effort. It also helps data governance and managing data access throughout the organization, because you have a single pane of glass of how your data is being utilized and is currently cataloged. And both data observability and data discovery are really exist to promote data quality, data lineage, and collaboration within the organization. So I would like to dive a little bit deeper into those three shared qualities. Next. So let's first talk about data quality. I guess a lot of people also do think, oh, well, data observability isn't that data quality tools. The way that I would say the data quality should be defined, there is a definition of data quality in the sense of technical system level of correctness of quality. And then there's also the data quality where you want to ensure that people are using the right data. And hence, when someone is thinking about our data systems or accessing our data, we know that the data is quality and sound. So for data observability purposes, data quality means the following. Is the data complete? Is this data up to date? And is this data valid? This allows you to ensure that the data underneath is actually sound and correct and ready to be used for your analysis. Next. Whereas for data discovery, data quality means the following. Is this the right data set to use? Where did this data originate from? How was this collected? And how should this data be queried? Like, is there like a filter I need to ensure that we are applying on? And what are some of the joins that I might want to use for using this data? Even if the data itself is all up to date and complete, if you misuse the data, or if you end up using data wrongly without understanding fully, your result of analysis is not going to be trustworthy. And in that case, I would say your data quality also isn't that great in your organization. So data quality is both, there's both sides of the data observability and data discovery can really help. Next, in terms of utilizing data lineage, in terms of observability purposes, it's really focused on engineering issues and incidents related to the data jobs. So when something breaks, the data observability tools will use lineage to try to answer the following questions, like what are the root causes of the incident, which data is affected, and who should fix this issue. Next. Whereas for data discovery, lineage is being used for data understanding analysis. So how was this dashboard generated? Which data set are we actually using underneath? For specific data sets, where else is this data being used? And if I'm looking into a query or areas of dashboards that are very slow, what data sets can be remodeled? And last but not least, the impact analysis can also be done through data discovery tools when you're looking at data lineage. Next. And last but not least, here, I also want to point out the differences of the data observability and data discovery around collaboration, because both tools do promote collaboration between different teams. For data observability, the main collaboration happens between the data engineering side and platform engineering, or product engineering teams that handles any of the upstream data generation. Next. Whereas for data discovery, the main collaboration that happens between data engineering and data analysis teams, or data analytics or data science teams. Furthermore, the data consumers on the business side, like the BI users or business analysts, can also be the main users of the platform to collaborate on documentation or business glossary. Next. So to sum up, both data discovery and data observability are quite important for data-driven organization. Data observability really promotes the operational reliability of data. And next, whereas data discovery really promotes the context and understanding for better data usage. So having both will allow to ensure that the data is actually complete, up-to-date, valid, and sound, but also allows you to understand where the data actually came from, who else is using this inside the organization, how can this actually be utilized in my analysis or different analysis, and if there are any, to discover if there are any business KPIs and metrics that the data is being represented and being used for. Next. So the frequently asked question here is, which one should I implement first? Does data observability come first or data discovery? And as many of the answers go, it always depends. I would say you should think about how the data is currently being treated in your organization and where your data team is currently spending their time today. So the first question that you should ask is, where is our organization in its data democratization journey? Is data democratization and self-service analytics something that's supported company-wide? Is your head of data actually have a full buy-in to enable everyone else in the organization to ensure they can also utilize data well? And hence, do people have actually access to data? Or if I want to look up some data, or if this other analyst, new analysts that have joined the team want to look up some data, do they have to go through like a centralized process and full approval chain just to get there? Which means ultimately, how easy is it for everyone in the business to utilize data for better decision-making? If your company has a primary data warehouse or data lake that includes most of the data that's open to multiple teams and most of the company, then I would say you're already taking a step towards data democratization. So in that case, you would want to have data discovery first. So you are encouraging everyone to use the data, and you can guide them to a correct understanding and correct way of utilizing the data first. Whereas if your company data is open to less number of people, because they want to make sure that data is not just being used everywhere. And if there's like a process that you need to go through to get access, then you might want to put data observability first to ensure that data that are currently being used and the quality of that is currently sound and correct. And you can think about how to start making that data more available to more users. That's the first question to answer. The second question you should also think about is if the data reliability is a major issue today in your organization. Does our data team spend more time supporting broken dashboards or answering data questions coming from different places? If your data analysts are wasting time because this dashboard they built last month was correct, but it doesn't seem like it today, then you would probably need to invest in data observability to ensure that changes that's happening and the data quality underneath of your jobs are actually being monitored. But sometimes, usually dashboards that are built themselves are fine because they already have some checksums that's already built in. The data pipelines usually run fine, but your data team ends up spending a lot of time acting as like the internal IT support for data. People are asking them and DMing them which data set to use, or if they have like a SQL query that they can copy and paste. Or your new analyst that you just hired is continuing to reinvent the wheel because they just didn't know that somebody else already built this dashboard in the past. In those cases, you would invest in data discovery. So you can capture the tribal knowledge and share it amongst everyone in the company. And last but not least, another part that you should consider before you are implementing data observability tools would be if you are clear on which data sets to track its operational quality for. From a lot of the customers that we work with, we find that most companies use only about 10 to 15% of their full data sets today. And so if you know which data sets you are using the most and which have maybe the most dependencies that you would want to track, then I would say this is a great place for you to start prioritizing those data sets and put observability tools in place. At the same time, on the other hand, if you don't have a good answer to this, you don't know how many tables you actually have, or which are going to be the most important data sets. You can think of maybe a few, but you want to ensure that there is a clear map of usage model. Then having a data discovery and cataloging all the data first, and understanding the usage pattern in order for you to map out the different SLA levels will be like the first step here. Next. So I hope it's clear that I'm not really vouching for implementing one or the other, because in a way, having both, regardless of which way you're starting from, having both will be the best way to ensure the seamless data ops to be running in your organization. There's a lot of data, I would say, metadata that can be exchanged between those platforms. And I think that's where you can really also get a lot of value and make your data team's experience richer. So some of those I wanted to point out in the slide. Next. The main integration points between data discovery and data observability platforms come from really being able to share the business context versus operational status information of the data. So for data discovery perspective, there's documentation, usage, ownership, as well as the domain context that can be pushed to the data observability platforms so that the data engineers and production engineers can truly prioritize on which pipelines or models to fix when there are multiple things that are broken. And on the other hand, for data observability platforms, there are observable operational metrics and reliability metrics, like the job schedule time versus actual runtime, its success rate, or if any of the diagnostics tests have passed or failed. You can also pass in like which engineer or team on the production side should be maintaining the pipeline. So there's a clear technical owner on the IT side as well. And all of these information, when it is available in the data discovery platforms, it helps the data consumers in the company to be aware of its quality status before they make use of that data. And ultimately, whether the data set is actually in a good status or not, being able to actually have that status up to date builds trust in their data and their data team. So one thing that I mentioned, the impact analysis and propagation is available on both sides of the platform. I would say this can actually happen on either side, but many discovery and observability platforms will help you in a way where you can see who will get affected or mark which other dashboards should be tagged as like broken. But I would also say that data discovery platforms tends to provide more downstream notification and workflow since it's more ingrained with data consumer side of the business. Whereas data observability platforms can also provide more upstream propagation around root causes and perhaps support ticket creation on the engineering side, as they are more integrated into the engineering workflow. So that's all. Next. Thank you. I hope this clarifies the differences and how you can think about the implementation of data observability and or data discovery in your company. So, and to learn more about data discovery, data governance, data observability, you can also visit selectstar.com. Thank you.
Excellent. There's a few questions that I want to ask before we finish this because the chat was blowing up, and Jerome had one that was about, would you consider Stemma as a data discovery tool? And if not, why wouldn't it be one?
I consider Stemma as a data discovery tool. It has been originated from the open source project Amundsen, which was a data catalog and data discovery open source project. So Stemma, the commercial company behind it, I would say is primarily a data discovery tool.
Excellent. All right. And last one from John, unless anyone else wants to ask in the chat real fast, get it while you can. So John is saying data lineage can also be used in a forward-looking sense. If I change the content of a particular field, what downstream data sets and analytics will be affected? Who do we need to inform? What can we enable with this change?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it wasn't necessarily a question. Now that I read it, I saw question marks.
That is what I meant by impact analysis. So there is the upstream side of root cause analysis that you can run with data lineage, but also there's a downstream side of impact analysis that you can run. One is to figure out which tables get impacted, meaning the data is going to change, and then the downstream of that will be which reports and dashboards hence may not be up to date. And from there, you can also look at which BI users or business stakeholders that are consuming these dashboards should be aware that the dashboard may not be up to date. So mostly on the BI side and the impact analysis on that is something that a lot of discovery platforms, including SelectStar, point out to. Because the consumption of data can happen through queries, but also can be tracked by looking at the impressions of the dashboard, who actually viewed the dashboard.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So I loved the slide about is it a data discoverability or is it a data observability problem? And kind of going through both of those and saying, well, if it's this, maybe you want to think about it in this way. And if it's if your dashboard's broken, maybe you want to look at it this way. So thank you so much, Shinji. This has been incredible. You've done the hard work of bringing us home strong, and I appreciate it. And so now we're going to finish it up